It's thinking, it's thinking. I just have to make sure I turn my sound off. Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Hi, and we are live. I see it.
I know. Hello. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited for all of you to join us here on Facebook Live at Live Your Creative Life. This month's topic is physical fitness because the Olympics are here and they start in 2 days. I'm so excited. So excited. So this month we're going to be interviewing personal trainers and those who have a passion for physical fitness and why it's so important in our life. But first, real quick, last month in January, we did a challenge on Live Your Creative Life to go ahead and get people started on their health prints. And so everyone who filled out their health print during January was entered to win a prize. So today we're going to announce the prize. So I've got my handy dandy little thing right here. We're going to shake our things around. And here we go. The winner is Leslie Evans. All right. So you win this little Shackley sports bottle and a box of the Hydrate low calorie performance drink. So that is, we will get that to you, ship it down to you in Phoenix, Arizona. So we're very excited. Today is the first in the series of the personal trainer profiles. And today we're interviewing Karen Sullivan, who actually happens to be my cousin, which is kind of fun. So Karen, you've been involved with physical fitness for quite a while. But what actually led you to become a personal trainer?
Well, I started before I became a personal trainer or had any interest in it. I started back in the 80s working out at a gym. And I lived in Virginia Beach and I was single. I was overweight, not super bad, but a little over 200 pounds, felt pretty miserable. And it was actually an answer to prayer that I got an offer for a membership to a gym in the mail that I had never applied for. There you go. And cool. I started working out. I did it for a number of years. Fast forward to as an adult, married, I have children. And my children, we lived in Williamsburg, Virginia, and we were involved with the swim team. I was on the board and my kids swam. And as they were talking about advancing the program, they said, the head coach said, I'd like to have somebody who can do strength and conditioning training. And I sat there thinking, and at that point, I was about over 300 pounds. Mm. And I sat there thinking, I could do that. And I kept quiet for a while. I kept quiet and they're discussing it more. And finally I raised my hand and I said, I know I don't look like I know what I'm talking about, but I could do that. I have that experience. I could do that. So I interviewed with Harold. He suggested that, okay, let's go ahead. Let's do it. So I got the job. After I was doing it for a while, I asked them if they would help me to pay for my certification. And they did, and we ended up splitting it. And so it was ideal. And I started, that was probably in 98, 99. And so I started working with the kids who were the top 16 swimmers and or the quad A swimmers. And they were the older kids that the strength was really the tiny little ingredient that was missing for helping them to really be faster and start winning. And so that was exciting. And I worked out of several facilities at the time, and it was wonderful. It was a great beginning. I had some great people that I worked with and worked for. So that's how I started. That's
awesome. Now, what specialty do you do now as a personal trainer? Do you have something that you focus on?
Well, I do. I am interested in, it's almost like as my body got older, I recognized that I couldn't do certain things, and I started to look at people around me that also couldn't do things, move and lifting weights. When I was single and competing, I was a competitive bodybuilder and power lifter, and I did very heavy on an amateur level, but I lifted very heavy weights. And so I did a lot of damage to my body. And that limits what I can do. At the same time, one of my bosses in Williamsburg was a professor at the College of William and Mary, and he kind of became my mentor, and we would have discussions about physiology and anatomy and those sorts of things, kinesiology. And one day I went into work and he said, I got you a new client today. I said, really? He said, yep, he's starting on Tuesday. He had a stroke a month ago and he's coming in he wants to do rehab. He's out of rehab center and he wants to continue in strength. And his daughter had hired us. And I looked at him and like a deer in headlight, and I said, I can't do that. He said, yes, you can. And so his name was Jack Michaels. If you ever hear this, Jack, thank you so much. You put me on this track, and I started working with him. And Jack sort of gave me, under his tutelage, he helped me to understand the different things that I had to do with someone who had a disability, and whether it was a paralysis or neuromuscular issues or whatever. So since that time, I work with people who have had strokes, who have recovered and are trying to be the best they can. And then multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, Parkinson's disease. So I have a certification as a personal trainer, a second one as a post-rehab exercise specialist. And then the third that I got while I was in Atlanta, that's an MDT, which is movement disorders. And it ideally for Parkinson's patients, but I also there's a lot that you can apply across the board to work with other people with muscular problems. So yeah, that's where I am at this point.
Awesome. Did you feel did your passion change as you've been as a personal trainer? Do you feel like you are more passionate or less passionate about different aspects of physical fitness as you've been?
Yes, what I have come to recognize is that there's a lot of times what keeps people from excelling and doing well is, number one, what's in between their ears, the thoughts that they have and how we can overcome those, and why we fall off the bandwagon, why we keep backsliding. And then the second thing is a nutritional level that's so important, which is I started with Shackley back when I was single and lifting. And through the years, I continued using the products, but didn't always introduce it to my clients. And now that I'm older, I recognize even more so how the nutritional component is missing in a lot of people's lives. And it's keeping them from being the best that they can be. And so that's why I introduce it to my clients. Take it or leave it. That's where I am with it. That's something that's super important.
Absolutely. So what's one of the biggest things you learned about yourself while you've been working with people on their physical and health journeys?
Well, I think what I've recognized, I recognize how much damage I did to myself in training incorrectly all those years ago. The body was not intended to have that heavy weight like that. And I know that there are people out there. I have a son that lifts like that. And I sort of cringe inside and go, oh, but you don't want to be like me when you get older. And it won't happen necessarily to everybody, but there is still a component you have to realize that the muscles can be pushed, but the tendons and the ligaments and the joints cannot. And that's what leads to problem. And the other aspect is that I abused my body in as far as nutritionally and food wise, and that did a lot of damage. So that sort of everybody says if you're not eating right and you don't eat enough calories and all of that, and that the number of calories that you should have bare minimum in a day is 1,200, and that goes across the board for everybody. Men, it's slightly more, maybe 1,400 to 1,500. But when I was competing, I was eating 400 calories a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not so great. And so my body has this set point that's low, and between my ears is a real problem with eating disorder. So, and here I wasn't going to talk about this today, but it always comes out. I mean, it's really true and it's real. And so when I talk about people being on a diet roller coaster, I know from personal experience what that is like, because it's not just a matter of your weight fluctuating. The worst of it is that it hits into your psyche and your heart, and it builds all of this turmoil in your mind too at the same time with restricting, and it's a vicious cycle. So that's what I do now with people. Moving on to the next question.
Now, is that some of that history? Is that what prompted you to write your books?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it did. And because there's so much information out there that I find that applies to a small population, but everybody tries to make it apply to them. Older population tries to do the stuff that is like high intensity interval training. Not every single body can do that. Not every single body can do that. You might do it for a while, but not every single body can. And with my book, I tried to get people to recognize what their limitations are as far as being able to do real intense workouts and heavy weights and restricted diets and those sorts of things. So the kicker line or cut line on my book is a mindful, livable approach to fitness. And that's what I think we need to do. Is it needs to be sort of easygoing, and not that it's not strict, not that you're not working hard, but that you're not being a maniac.
That balance in between there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So what's something that you learned about other people or people in general as you've been teaching so many people about health and weight loss?
I can call a spade. I do I do work with people long distance, either on the telephone or across with Zoom, FaceTime in some instances. And in the coaching, trying to help them to stay on point and do the program that they've decided that they want to do. And I can tell when somebody's lying to me. Everybody's going to say, I don't want her to work with me. But, and what's more important is I can tell when they're lying to themselves. And so I can see, where it is that they're sort of not doing themselves a great service because they're not being honest with themselves. And if we aren't honest with ourselves, then we're not going to make the changes, and they're not going to be or if we do, they're not going to be lasting changes. I've learned that people defend against change, and that's part of what the brain does. The brain does that to protect us. It doesn't want us to go into anything that's off the beaten path. Okay. So if you think of the brain as having this pattern, and my book, The Zen of Weight Loss, talks about patterns, and brains like patterns. If you want to change, you have to give it something interesting. We're created as human beings to learn and grow and change. And the brain will do that, but you have to make it interesting and entertaining. So, for example, let's say you want to change everything. You want to change your weight. You have to do exercise, and you have to do fitness change, or food changes and everything. What I suggest to people is that they look at everything across the board and they choose one thing, just one thing. And then that thing they start to redo. So let's say I've had a client in the past that decided she had to give up soda. And she drank a lot of soda, so she needed to give up soda. And so she shifted at the time. Well, this was a good 12, maybe even 14 years ago. And we didn't understand what we do today about diet sodas. So she shifted to diet soda, which did indeed help her. And she did start to drop weight. Well, when you make one change, regardless of what it is, when you make one change and your body starts to do the thing that you're asking it to do, and your habits are changing, you start to feel better. And when you feel better, then you're more willing to do the next change, and then the next, and then the next. And it's not even that I don't have to say to somebody, it's time to change this or change that, and they just go ahead and they'll do it. And they'll come to me and say, I think I could, and they have a great idea on it.
That's neat how you're saying the brain works. It kind of like builds on itself and you get that momentum going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like when they talk about, recently I heard where somebody was saying that, motivation is garbage, was the comment. And I totally disagree with that. Absolutely disagree. There are two things that you need in order to be effective in making changes in your life. One is motivation and the other one is mindfulness. And the motivation is your why. And you have to find that thing which is so deeply embedded. It is your heart's desire that when you finally hit on it in a sort of, when I do workshops, I do a guided meditation where they're going through in their minds, okay, all right, I want to be in a size 3 by such and such a date. And then you go, well, why? Well, because it's a class reunion and I want to look great. Okay, but why? And then you come up with another reason. And not that you share it with anybody, and my clients don't share it with me. But when you get to the point where you've asked yourself over and over, going deeper and deeper, well, why does that matter? What's so important about it? What does it do for you? And when you get to the reason that makes goosebumps on your arm, right? Or you feel the shiver up your spine, or you feel like you want to cry because it impacts you so much. And you go, oh my gosh. That is the reason that will keep you on point. And then the next half of it is that you have mindfulness, that you try to keep yourself present in the moment instead of this automatic stuff, which the brain does, which is the way we're supposed to operate. That's how it works. But when you just step out of yourself for a second and go, okay, here we go. I have a YouTube video that's called the Ignition Meditation. That is just getting in your car before you start it, sitting for 3 deep breaths and listening to the sounds around you and being aware of what your environment is, whether it's cold, whether the dog's barking next door, is it sunny, is it whatever, just sitting there for the length of 3 deep breaths, and then going on and starting the car. Tidbits, little bit to help you to just stop away. Wait a minute, what are we doing now? What are we doing now? And it'll help you to stay on point.
So where are you training now?
Well, I like to say I am locally and globally because of my Shackley business and my webpage that I'm, reaching out to people across the country. And I have a couple friends that are overseas, which is really nice because Facebook, we're able to communicate through Messenger. But I am also here in St. Charles, Missouri, or St. Peter's actually, which is right outside St. Louis. And I work for the city of St. Peter's at the Recplex. Best decision I ever made.
Really?
Yeah, it's a wonderful facility. We've got silver sneakers. We've got people that are qualified and just real exciting staff. Great place to work out. Great place to work. Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what is your next step with physical fitness and in your business for?
Okay, well, as I tell people all the time, that my goal is to help you to be the best version of yourself. That's what I'm pushing for myself. And this year, I'd like to overcome the obstacles that I have with my own fitness and health and the restrictions that my body poses on me all the time. I'd like to be not having to limp as much as I do. So betterment of myself. And then I have a goal that in 2018 that I want to help 1,000 people to make their changes in their life and their fitness and perhaps even in their income level. And so that's my goal for this year.
That's
And whether
awesome.
you're here or on the other side of the country, that's what I think I can do.
That's amazing. Now, this is, I think, one of the bigger questions. Why do you think everyone should have an active interest in their own physical health?
Okay. That's sort of like a two-prong answer I have.
Okay.
I don't answer anything straight out, do I? Oh, okay. So the first thing is because you have people that love you and care about you and would like you to be around. And if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so with it, those people will appreciate you. And not only that, but when they see the example that you're leading, then they'll begin to take care of themselves also.
Mm.
So it kind of has that domino effect, and other people will help. And I don't care if you are 20, 60, or 80 years old. You're not done here. You're not done. And you want to be able to live a life where you're magnificent, where you feel fantastic. And so it's important. It's real important.
That's awesome. Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everyone enjoyed our first session of Personal Trainer Profile here throughout the month of February on Live Your Creative Life. And on our Facebook page, there is already a link to Karen's book, The Zen of Weight Loss, if any of y'all are interested in that. And I'll make sure that that goes out again later today. Everyone have a great day. Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. And let's cheer on Team USA in 2 days, everybody.
Yay. Yay. Thanks.
Thank you.